Welcome back to part three of a fast conversation about the Fast and Furious. I'm Korbin Zvokel.
I'm Jackson Mahuron.
And I'm Carter Sims.
What? We have a guest with us today. Shout out Carter for coming on to talk about Tokyo Drift.
The Justin Timberlake of Japan, they call me.
Beautiful. They call me Drift King personally, but
Jackson, what do they call you?
Uh, Vin Diesel, baby.
on
Nice.
Solo. They call you Bama Boy.
They call me Twink. Great name.
So Jackson, Carter, and I just watched Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, and we're going to talk about it for 15 minutes today since there's three of us. Neither of you had seen Tokyo Drift. Are you guys excited to talk about it?
I'm excited to talk about it, but that's about it.
I'd say the same. Yeah. But now my Fast and Furious journey is complete. This was the only one I hadn't seen. So
you finally have the Letterboxd franchise complete, the Fast and Furious saga. It's
all I was looking for.
Well, let's go ahead and get into it. We're setting the clock for 15 minutes, and we're going to go in 3, 2, 1. So the first thing I want to talk about, where did you guys watch this?
Jackson?
On Peacock.
Carter?
Peacock, yeah.
Okay, so I watched this on Peacock, and I started watching it last night. I couldn't finish it before I went to bed. I got on this morning, and it was gone off Peacock. I had to rent it to watch the last hour of the movie.
I noticed that because I turned on Peacock today, and it was still on the thing, but it had like a weird slash through it, and like you couldn't play it. And I was like, that's really weird.
Yeah, so strange, so mad. I had spent $3.99 to watch the last hour of this movie this morning. So
that's amazing.
Just needed to start the conversation with that. Moving into it, you guys watched it for the first time. We'll start with our guest, Carter, just right off the bat. What did you think? Initial thoughts?
Well, I was telling Corbin before we started recording, I was supposed to be on a flight at 7:30 yesterday from Florida to Chicago. That flight got delayed 5 hours, and I got home at 3:30 in the morning. But in the airport, I watched Tokyo Drift, and it made my life a little better.
There's probably better and worse ways to spend your time waiting for a delayed flight.
You know, I watched a few other movies, but yeah, I queued this one up. And I watched this, and no spoilers for Jackson, I guess, when we get down the line. But the chronology of this saga is really confusing, and I'm just reminded of it after seeing this film, because then I had to go read a bunch of stuff of why certain things happened the way they happened, and it turns out that it's really confusing. So that being said, I thought the movie was okay. I would say not good. Yeah,
Jackson, I know you would probably describe it as worse than okay. So what do you think?
I thought it was pretty bad. I don't know. I think it's really weird. First of all, I don't know the chronology of this. I don't know how it ties into
We'll do a quick explanation.
Okay, like halfway through, Abby asked if he was a young Paul Walker, and I honestly couldn't tell her. I was like, I have no idea, actually. I don't remember this guy's name. He kind of looks like he's like a Walmart 40-year-old version of Paul Walker, but he
like does look so old, but he's like 22. So it's weird.
But like, and then like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's weird to take this franchise and be like, what if we set the characters in high school now and everything's still basically the same? It's like, that seems like a really unnecessary choice. But yeah, I have so many thoughts, but I just want to see what you have to say, Corbin.
Yeah, so I think we can start with the obvious thing. I mean, it's my background. We obviously have the character Han, who is really the one who remains the most prominent throughout the entire franchise, who does die in this movie. So just to not to spoil anything too much down the line, but as a quick explanation, he will appear in the 4th movie, the 5th movie, the 6th movie, kind of the 7th movie, and then a big return in the 9th. 4, 5, and 6 all take place prior to this movie. So there you go. That's how they get around it. Everyone loved the character of Han so much, they were like, we have to bring him back. So in order to do that, they just set the movies leading up to this movie with the whole idea of he wants to get to Tokyo. At the end of 6, he's like, we're going to go to Tokyo. 7 events play out simultaneously to this movie. And then I won't explain what happens for him to return in 9, but we'll get there. I mean, I will say watching this movie in hindsight, it does kind of set it up a little bit. He talks about having a past with Dom Toretto. He talks about having to like make the run for the border and come to Tokyo. So there's clearly like a setup for a story there. Just in terms of like the fact that this movie is very clearly set in 2006, and then those other movies take place in the like late 2000s to early 2010s is a little confusing, especially when you look at technology stuff. But yeah, it's just a really strange thing. And it really just comes down to like Han was the only thing people loved about this movie. So they had to bring him back.
Yeah, pretty ridiculous. To retroactively do that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely really strange. And also continuing, there was a couple other things that they kept from this movie to the others, and that's the director, the screenwriter, and the composer really continued throughout. So Justin Lin, this was his first directorial debut. He goes on to direct 4, 5, 6, 9, and then was hired to direct 10, left because of creative differences with Vin Diesel. The screenwriter for this movie, Chris Morgan, worked on 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, Hobbs and Shaw, and Shazam 2. So, I mean, iconic. And then, of course, Sung Kang, the actor of it appears in multiple. And then the composer, Brian Tyler, returns as well. Talking about the production a little bit, in general, this feels like a shitty direct-to-video sequel of the franchise, and it was very close to becoming that. It was almost just released on DVD. They basically, after 2, they put out an open call to fans of the series of like, hey, we need a screenwriter. We need somebody to come in. Chris Morgan, the screenwriter, kind of gave this pitch of, hey, let's take Dom Toretto and bring him in Tokyo. Obviously, that initial conception leads to just setting the movie in Tokyo, focusing on drifting. They hired Justin Lin, and then they make that happen. What do you guys think about the Tokyo setting as a whole? Do you think it's an interesting place to go?
I think it's kind of insane how the movie opens like in Texas or somewhere weird. And like they do like this crazy race and he gets kicked out of school and the cop is like, all right, you have to move or go to jail. And then
before that, the cop is like,
I'm not moving anymore.
She's like, I hate you. But before that, the cop is like, I love poor people like you because I could just make sure I get a conviction, which is some great cop material.
Yeah. Yeah, that cop was doing a lot in that. But then like the choice to send him overseas, I didn't see it coming. I was like, what? This is how we're doing it? This is crazy. I don't know. I thought it was kind of ridiculous.
It's an extremely dumb setup. And they get the whole like dad dynamic relationship, which is just awful throughout. Carter, are you a big drifter?
Not recently, but only a Mario Kart nowadays. But yeah,
Mario Kart.
God, I love Mario Kart. Yeah, the whole Japan. So I'd always heard like people have told me like this one, people like this one a lot just because I don't know if it's because that it's kind of back to the roots of what Fast and Furious began as, where it's literally just like street level street racing. And then there just happens to be Japanese gangs that also love street racing too. Because then once we get down the saga here, it really goes off the wall insane and really loses that. So I guess that's what people like about it, because it is a simple story. Doesn't that the main guy comes back too, right? At some point.
He appears a little bit in 7 because of that simultaneous thing that we were talking about. And then in Fast 9, him and Bow Wow returns.
That's right.
And maybe some of the other characters as well. That movie's so bad.
Yeah. So yeah.
You think this one's bad, Jackson? Just wait.
Yeah, this one is it's quite poor. I guess I like the change.
Oh
no. Yeah, it's bad. I guess I'd like the change of scenery a little bit, but it is still just guys racing, which is what the core of this was and isn't anymore. But yeah, I'm a drifter. To sum it up.
I definitely think it's cool to go back to the roots of that first movie a little bit. There's this idea throughout of like real street racing cars versus like your typical idea of like what a luxury fast car is. And every car in this movie is like these, Asian automotive makers with specially designed to be drifting and to have these high speed. And it's like an appreciation for real car culture, especially within Tokyo and within Japan, which I think is really cool.
The Incredible Hulk car. Yeah.
The Incredible Hulk car. We got to talk about that. That is incredible. I'm a big Hulk fan, so we got to give a shout out to that.
Oh, Bow Wow. Bow Wow in his whole car. When it first came out, I thought there was like a dent in the back of the car. That's what I thought it was going on. I was like, what?
Yeah, that was weird.
Mina looked at me and goes, "Is that a foot?" And I was like, "Yes, it is."
Quentin Tarantino directed this? What?
Jackson, I know you have a lot of feelings about Bow Wow and his character Twink, so I'll throw it over to you for those thoughts.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I didn't realize it was Lil Bow Wow until after I checked the IMDb or the letterbox afterwards. And obviously a huge fan of Like Mike. I think that movie shaped my childhood in a lot of ways. He is so bad in this movie. I don't understand what his deal is. Why is his name Twink? That's kind of weird. And like the
Short
fact
for
that
Twinkie, obviously.
but like why? Like that's so weird. Anyways, but like the whole like bit of him being in high school and also connected to the underground because he gets like exclusive shoes and stuff to sell to people. Like they take the main character down to the secret model lounge and Twink's just like there. Like I thought that was amazing.
He's a military brat, man. They can do that, I guess.
It's insane.
It's so strange. When they go down into that, underground club area, there's a great song playing, and there's great songs playing throughout this whole movie. I think that's really one of the highlights of this, and honestly, this kind of era of the Fast from 2 to 6 or maybe 7. The soundtracks are just always so great. They always have like specifically written songs. I think back to the second movie where Ludacris does the Too Fast, Too Furious theme song. This one we get the Teriyaki Boys doing the Tokyo Drift theme song, which I just absolute banger. It's incredible.
Yeah, it goes. It really goes.
Beautiful needle drops throughout. A lot of strange accents in this movie. The Lucas Black Bama accent. I mean, what do we think about that, guys?
Terrible.
It's
bad.
Pretty bad.
Real bad.
It's very intense. It's very intense. And then, of course, you have the love interest character, Neela, who her accent actually kind of makes sense for the character, but it still just feels super strange because it's like kind of Australian. And that's the thing. She's like Peruvian, Argentinian, but then she moved to Australia when she was like, so she has a similar background to the character, but her accent is really just strange and wavers throughout the whole movie.
I don't know why we have to make it so complicated. Like you can just get, you don't have to, they don't need these incredible backstories. Like, cause I don't care. Like,
gotta give the characters life.
Well, they needed a little more.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Vin Diesel makes a cameo at the end of this movie. Let's talk about that. Were you jacked to see him?
I was hyped as hell. I'm not gonna lie. I got really
highlight for the film
to see somebody I cared about show up.
Carter, do you think it made the movie better?
I guess it grounded me back in the fact that, oh, this is part of this, and I had forgotten.
It's good franchise building. We can say that.
It is before the MCU was even a thing, man. They were figuring their stuff out. So yeah, it was quite nice to see Vin Diesel in his cut off tees.
Apparently that cameo was added after the fact. They did test screenings that fans weren't a huge fan of, so they were like, we need to bring in a big star from the original franchise to do a cameo at the end. And in exchange for him doing that cameo, Universal gave Vin Diesel the rights to the Riddick franchise, so he controls that because of this cameo.
That's awesome.
And then following this movie, like he was posting on Facebook about like updates, and we're gonna get the third movie. And then finally in 2013, they had the third installment in Riddick, and it's all because of this cameo.
Wow,
that's really cool.
When are we doing the Riddick? One of these
fast
conversations.
Hey, Riddick 4 is on the docket. Is coming, so maybe we might have to do a fast conversation.
It's amazing.
Any other thoughts about this movie, guys?
I have a couple. I wanted to say I think it's amazing when Bama Boy speaks Japanese fluently at the end. When like it's like, oh,
assimilation, dude. He's been in the country.
You learned it. Like that was crazy.
I mean, his school
he doesn't speak it at all.
But his school is entirely in Japanese, which is also a confusing thing.
That's what I thought was so funny too, because I'm like, is he just sitting there like not doing anything during the day?
He's absorbing the language.
And then of course, like him and his dad's relationship at the end just makes no sense. And
it feels like there was a scene cut, right?
Yeah. Because he's all of a sudden cool with everything.
He just gives him the keys. There's no dialogue. It's clear they were like, this isn't working. Carter, what about you? Any final thoughts on Tokyo Drift?
I thought the penultimate car chase scene was fun. And then I think the ultimate climax race
Awful
is really
climax.
underwhelming.
Yeah.
But I will say that it's hilarious that they are all filming on their flip phones, and that's how they're all watching this race.
And then like the camera goes through it, like through the web. Amazing.
2006, man.
The technology makes no sense. Are they Instagram live stream? Like, what the fuck? How are they watching it?
I don't know.
I just love that like every organized crime that we've seen in these movies, the only thing they care about slightly more is like the honor and rules of street racing. For like that's so convenient for everybody.
His uncle's Yakuza, but he's like, oh, you challenge him to a race? Yeah, sure,
all
whatever.
Right.
I'll respect the outcome.
All right, we have
Even
a little bit of
dies, crazy.
We have a little bit of time left, so we got to rank this title. So we decided that The Fast and the Furious was better than Too Fast, Too Furious in terms of title. What do we think? Is Tokyo Drift? Where do we place it? Jackson, what do you think?
For just the title name?
Just the title name.
And we had Too Fast, Too Furious on top.
There's some confusion about that. We can move it around.
Tokyo Drift, I'm gonna put last still. I didn't
worst title.
Like,
all right, book
not
it.
The best.
Finally, Jackson, what's gonna happen in Fast and Furious 4? You have 10 seconds.
They're gonna race another minority group, and they're gonna be connected to organized crime. Maybe we're going to Europe.
South/Central America, I believe, is where we head for this one. So
wrong
close.
Continent.
We will make it to Europe. That is our timer. Thank you, Jackson. Thank you, Carter, for making a special appearance for Tokyo Drift.
Of course.
And we'll be talking about Fast and Furious 4 now.